we're going to learn about 4 different types of angle measurements. There is a lot more than what I'm going to teach you, but this is the very beginning, very basics, and you will learn more, I believe, next year in pre-algebra. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so the 4 types that we're going to learn about this year are going to be supplementary angles, complementary angles, vertical angles, and adjacent angles. So 1 through 6 has those angles listed. We just got to figure out which one is which. So if you want to take a guess, and you want to guess what number 1 would be, do you think it's supplementary, complementary, vertical, or adjacent? And it's okay because it's a guess if you get it wrong, because I obviously haven't taught you this yet. Aubrey.
Number 1 is adjacent.
It is not adjacent. Good guess. Brady.
Supplementary.
It is not supplementary. Good guess. Morgan.
Complementary.
It is not complementary, which means it is what, everyone?
Vertical.
These are vertical angles. You guys did exactly what the first period did too. They went through all 4 of them to figure it out. Okay, so number 1 is vertical angles because these angles are directly across from one another. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
So they're vertical to one another, whether they're vertical across, vertical to the side, doesn't matter. But the thing with vertical angles is they will always have the exact same measurement, which means that if I tell you that angle 1 is 121 degrees, so if I say angle 1 is 121, and we know that angle A and angle B are vertical angles are always equal. So if angle A is 121 degrees, that means angle B is 121 degrees because of vertical angles. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Any questions so far? Okay, anyone want to guess what number 2 is? Gabe?
Supplementary?
It is. So number 2 is supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are 2 angles that equal 180 degrees. 2 angles, not more, not less. 2 angles that when you put them together, they equal 180 degrees. So when I see this, do you guys see how this is a straight line at the bottom? A straight line's 180 degrees. Okay, if I were to give you a protractor, it would tell you it's 180 degrees. Is that understood? Okay, so straight line, 180. These 2 angles, when I put a line here, I have angle A, angle B. If I got rid of that, I would have a straight line, right, guys? Mm-hmm. So those 2 angles put together equal 180 degrees. That'll make more sense when you see it with numbers, okay, guys? So let's do that. If I were to tell you that B was 121 degrees, if I know that B is 121 degrees, I want to know what letter A is. How would I figure out what the measurement of angle A is, Claire? Absolutely, it would be. So if you want to find what letter A is, you would do 180 because we know it's a supplementary angle. We know it equals 180 degrees. And I want to subtract 121 from it because that's what angle B is. So do the math for me if you haven't done that yet, you guys. What do we get, everyone? Which means angle A is 59 degrees because angle A and angle B have to add together to equal 180 degrees. Questions on supplementary? Okay, number 3. What do you think number 3 is? Campbell? It is not complementary. Becca? It is adjacent. Adjacent is one of those terms which can be used frequently in geometry because the word adjacent just means next to, meaning they are 2 angles that are literally just next to each other. It doesn't matter what their measurements are. If they are next to each other, they are adjacent. So do you see how these two angles share this line right here? That's what makes them adjacent. So if we look at number 2, would you call these adjacent? These are also adjacent. They're just specifically are supplementary. Does that make sense? What about number 1? Do you see how there are angles that are in between them? Therefore, they're not next to each other, which means they are not adjacent. Because adjacent means they must be next to each other. Does that make sense, guys? Bennett, are you sure I answered your question? Yeah. Okay. Brayden, did I answer your question?
I was just going to answer.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Other questions so far, guys? Okay, number 4. I want to know A and B because there's a lot going on here. A and B are either supplementary, complementary, vertical, or adjacent. When you're looking at A and B, what of those 4 is big? They are vertical. Excellent. So A and B are vertical angles because they are directly across from one another. They are made up by using the same 2 lines. Do you see how the same 2 lines are what are used to make up A and B? That's what makes them vertical because they're using the same 2 lines. Yes, sir.
So how would number 3 not be vertical because they're A and B been vertical?
They're not, though, because they're not made up with the same lines that are going crisscross from one another. So we don't know for a fact that they have the same 2 angles. So these ones we know for a fact that they have the same 2 angles. Good question. Claire? Good question. No, it cannot. So, like for here, if I block off this bottom part, that's a straight line, right, guys? But it has how many angles that make up that straight line? 3. Because it is more than 2, it is not supplementary. It's 2, and that's it. No more, no less. Does that make sense? So if I got rid of this line in between here and just had that one, then it would be supplementary. Does that make sense, Claire? Yes.
So what would it be called if it's just like a line and then 2?
Nothing.
Okay.
There's no name for it. Now, you could still figure out angle measurements as long as they give you answers and numbers, but it's not called anything. No specific name. Good question. Any other questions so far? All right, what about B? A and B, or not B, 5. What would you call A and B? What type of angle is that? Sophie? Not complementary. Leah? Not vertical. Morgan? Adjacent? Not adjacent, which means it has to be what, you guys? What did we say supplementary is? How many angles? That equal what? So these 2 angles, do you see how that's a straight line? It's just going up and down. So the direction of the straight line does not matter. The 2 angles add together to equal a straight line, which means number 5 is supplementary. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so if I told you that angle A was 108 degrees, figure out what angle B would be. Go. What'd you guys tell me?
72.
How'd you get that? 180 minus 108. Does that make sense? Questions on that? Number 6. What do you think number 6 is going to be, you guys? What's the one angle we haven't talked about yet? This is a complementary because we haven't talked about it yet. Now, it is also adjacent because what does adjacent mean? Next to. So this is also an adjacent angle, which means number 5 is also adjacent. It's just specifically supplementary. It's just specifically complementary. Does that make sense? So, complementary angles are 2 angles that equal 90 degrees. So, supplementary is 2 angles that add together to equal 180 degrees. Complementary is 2 angles that add together to equal 90 degrees. So, if I told you that angle A was 35 degrees, how would I figure out what angle B is equal to? Everyone do that for me. What do we get, everyone? What was it? I was going to say there's no way it can be 45. 55. Sophie.
So does that mean on number 4 that there is a complementary angle in it?
There is. So yes, we're going to come back to number 4 in just a second. But yes, number 4 has a complementary angle in it. Brayden.
Would there be like, is there a specific name for 360 or something?
It's a circle.
Yeah. Is there any other name for circle?
Yeah. No. 360. It'll be a circle. Good question, Leah.
What do you call it next to?
Meaning A and B are 2 angles right next to each other.
They have to like kind of be on like the lanes or
They have to share a line. So do you see how angle A and angle B share a line? That means they're next to each other. Do you see here how angle A and angle B share a line? Same thing here. A and B share a line. So they have a common line that they're sharing, which means they're right next to each other. If they don't share a line, they're not adjacent. Good question. Claire.
So the complementary angle is just like it's just a right angle.
Yep.
So it's just like
Yep, it's just a right angle. It has that box in it. Just a right angle. Okay, let's go back to number 4. Because they told you that this was 45 degrees. So everyone write down what letter A is equal to. Told you that's 45. So what's letter A going to be? Write it down for me. What'd you get, guys? How'd you get 45 degrees? 90 minus 45. And if we did 45 plus 45 plus 90, what would we get? And is that what that straight line equals? Write down what letter B is. Go. What'd you get? 45, because they are what? And vertical angles always have the same angle measurement. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay? All right, let's do a little bit of practice. You guys go down to the bottom. I'm going to have you work with your table partner. Okay? You are going to name 2 pairs of supplementary angles, meaning give me 2 angles, whether angle A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, whatever letter, okay, are 2 of them. What 2 added together are supplementary angles? Give me 2 of those. Give me 2 vertical angles, and then give me 1 complementary angle. Do it with your partners. Go. Lucille and Bella, you guys can unmute and work together, okay? Okay, here we go. 2. Give me 1 pair of supplementary angles you guys told me. G and H. 19, give me another pair.
F and A.
Not for supplementary. F and A, if I were to cover this all up, F and A do not make 180 degrees.
Oh, sorry.
So I need it to be 180 degrees. So 8, give me one that's supplementary. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Say that again. K and L. 7, give me another one. Yep. Nope, B and C don't make up a straight line. Becca, give me one. J and I. Aubrey. N and M. So right here, guys, look here. G and H are supplementary. H and I are supplementary. I and J are supplementary. J and G are supplementary. Those all make straight lines. Same thing down here. K and L. L and M. M and N. N and K. Those all make straight lines, so they are all supplementary angles. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, now I want vertical angles. So 6. Give me a vertical angle. B and C are not vertical angles. Because think about it. Remember, vertical angles have to be across from each other, and they have to have the same angle degree measurement. And B and C are not going to both be 90 degrees. So 21, what'd you say? A and B, is that what you said? D. A and D, yes. So A and D are vertical. They are directly across from one another. They have the same angle degree measurement. 11, give me another one. H and J. Those are vertical. They are across from one another. They have the same angle degree measure. Morgan, give me another one.
Would B and E work?
B and E would work. B and E are vertical. What's another one? Becca? K and M. Those are vertical. Isabel? N and L. Claire? G and I. Bennett? N and M? Nope, those are not vertical. Those are supplementary because they make a straight line. So it's N and L, K and M, G and I, H and J, A and D, E and B, F and C. All of those are all vertical angles. Okay, what about complementary angles? 13. What'd you give me for a complementary angle? F and A. Isabel? C and D. Those are your only two options for complementary. There are none others. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's essentially like you're putting two angles together with an X, and it's the angles that are across from each other that look the same because they gotta have the same angle measurement, right? Questions on that, you guys? All right, let's go to the last page. We only have this top part. You guys cut off this bottom part so you don't have to worry about this bottom part at all. What I want you to do is they gave you, this angle's 45 degrees. They gave you a box. You all know what that box means. They told you this is 85 degrees. That is 50 degrees. With your partner, tell me what every angle equals based on complementary, supplementary, and vertical angles. Go. All right, number 9. What'd you tell me angle A is equal to?
45 degrees.
It is 45 degrees. 17, what's angle B? 90 degrees. 23, what is angle C? 45 degrees. Becca, Bella, what's angle D equal to? Okay, so angle D is right here. Okay, so angle D is what compared to other numbers around you? What letter? What are you? For what letter? Yep. The M just means measure, sweetie. It doesn't mean anything. I just need to know what's the measurement of angle D. So angle D equals what number? Well, this D is this part right here. So it can't equal that amount. Because it's just whatever's inside this part right here. So like angle, well, based on what we learned on this previous page, angle D is compared to angle A, angle C. Like A and D are considered what? Okay, and if they're vertical angles, that means they are the same. So if we know what angle A is, we know what angle D is because of that. So what would angle D be? There you go. Good job. So 45 degrees for angle D. Nice job. 20. What'd you get for E?
For E, I got 90 degrees.
It is 90 degrees. Excellent. Questions so far, you guys? All right, 15. What'd you get for G?
130 degrees.
How did you get 130 degrees for G?
I did 180 minus 50.
Perfect. This right here, G and 50 make up a supplementary angle. So we do 180 minus 50, which gives us G as 130 degrees. So 18, what's H?
H is 50 degrees.
Good job. 12, what's I? Very good. 22, what's K?
K is 85.
K is 85. 10, what's L?
95 degrees.
How did you get 95 degrees?
Well, 85 and N or L are supplementary, so 180 divided by minus 85 equals 1.
Excellent. So as he just said, L and 85 make up a 180 degree supplementary angle. So we take 180 minus 85. That's how we get that 95. And then 14, what's N?
95.
95, because they are what?
Vertical.
Vertical. That's it, guys. That's all you're learning about angles this year. There's obviously a lot more involved with angles. That's just kind of the basic beginning of it. So do I have any questions? All right, you guys can put your notebook away.